Welcome, Greek U Nations, episode number 515 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, I had someone say the other day on social media that I was never going to solve hazing, so I should just give up. Well, as JFK once said, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. What I like about our next guest is that he is not afraid to tackle these hard things in life. David A. Collier, born in Lexington, Kentucky, earned his first two academic degrees at the University of Kentucky. After working in corporate America, he enrolled in a Ph.D. program at the Ohio State University. Upon earning his doctorate, he joined the faculty at Duke University and later taught in the business schools at the University of Virginia, the Ohio State University, Florida Gulf Coast University, and even in the United Kingdom at the University of Warwick. Dr. Collier has taught undergraduates, MBAs, PhDs, and executive programs. After decades of authoring scholarly research articles, business cases, numerous best paper awards, 5 college textbooks, and almost 50,000 reads and 5,000 citations of some of his scholarly articles, according to ResearchGate, he wanted a new challenge, and that is writing novels that make a difference. So welcome to the show, David.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well. It is just an honor to have you on the show, Dr. Collier. You know, we have to talk about the University of Kentucky because this place was very, just influential in terms of your path in life. Why did you choose the University of Kentucky for your undergraduate experience?
Well, I was born in Lexington, Kentucky, Michael, so that's the first thing. And then I spent my high school years and formative years in Central Kentucky. I ended up getting an engineering degree there and an MBA degree there. And why I went there was mainly I'm the son of an electrician. So there wasn't a lot of money around. Came from a wonderful family, blue collar family. And so out of state tuition really wasn't in the cards for me. So I got my first 2 degrees at UK. And of course, I'm a basketball fan.
Of course you would be. I mean, come on, you're at UK. I mean, is there anything else?
Not much.
Not much. I also love that you joined SAE there. What was special about the Brothers of SAE that made you want to join them?
Well, I did the rush. We rushed a lot of different fraternities, and I knew some folks in the SAE house, and they just had a very nice group of guys. I got along with them well, and I saw a lot of leadership and communication capable opportunities where I could develop as a young man. And so I ended up pledging SAE.
I love it. It's a great story. And I'm so happy that you did. I think that's fantastic. And, as a former professor at Duke, Ohio State, UVA, you authored award-winning research articles in 5 college textbooks. I mean, that's very impressive. That's goals for me. So you know a thing or two about career decisions. What is your best advice to all the undergraduates who are listening right now on how they can choose their career?
I do have one basic idea, and it goes like this: find your passion and try to tie your career to your passion. And I'll give you an example. I taught undergrads, MBAs, and one time a student came up after class, said, "Professor Collier, could I follow you to your office? I got some things I'd like to ask you about careers." And he was an undergraduate accounting major. And so we went in my office, and my area is operations, supply chain management, quality management, things like that. And he said, I was thinking about maybe doing a minor in supply chain management in addition to accounting. And he even talked for a while about maybe majoring in supply chain management. And I said to him at the time, I said, oh no, stick with your accounting. Accounting will pay the rent. And that's one of the first things you must do is when you get out of college is you got to be able to pay the rent. So anyway, we talked about different industries and stuff. And I said, well, what's your passion? Do you have something you really love? And he said, yeah, I do. He said, it's music. And he played a musical instrument and he loved music. And I said, well, why don't you try to get in a job, whether you minor in supply chain or not, it's up to you, but stick with your accounting, try to get a job in the music industry. And there you're around something that you love. Well, to make a long story short, he accepted a job in Nashville, Tennessee with a major music company, and he's just loved it ever since. And I have similar stories like that, Michael, with one student who actually did major in supply chain management. We had this "what's your passion" conversation, and he said water. I love water. I love rivers. I love to fish, ski on boats, all this, lakes and the ocean. And again, he ended up taking his first job. I don't think he stayed in that job, but his first job was with a boat manufacturer. So, you know, just the nature of the industry that he was in fit his passion for water. And so that's what I would recommend for the young student or the MBA student is then work is fun. And that's what you want, you know. Oh gosh, I get to go on this conference around in San Francisco, or I get to go down a river and with a fishing guide or whatever it might be. And so try to find what's your passion and then try to tie your career to that so work becomes fun.
Yeah. I wish I would have had that advice as a college student. I tell you what, yeah. I mean, my dad had similar thinking. He wanted me to pay the rent, and he said the same thing. He said, accounting, I got to tell you, there'll always be a job for an accountant because there's always somebody who's trying to cheat somebody. And so somebody's got to audit the books. And so he said, you'll never starve as an accounting major. And I said,
Well,
all right, Dad. So I went into accounting, and sure enough, I graduated with an undergraduate degree in accounting. But then I got out in the real world, and debits and credits were so boring. I mean, it's either black or white. There is no gray. You know what they do with, creative accountants? They send them to jail. That's what happens. And so I said, forget it. I said, I'm creative. I feel like my creativity is dying on the vine here by me doing debits and credits all day long. So, I went into some other paths. I went into, some creativity things, had a web design company, a search engine optimization company, and now I'm a public speaker. And this just fits my personality just so much better. And it's something I'm passionate about is helping other people. So, I had the money part right, but not the passion part. And that is really, really critical.
well, again, my first piece of advice is find a major that will help pay the rent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it paid the
And
rent,
then
all
you
right.
can and then you can do what you want.
It paid the rent, but I was miserable. So there's something to be said about happiness for sure and passion, as you say. You wrote the book. It's called The Earth's Ecocide, and it is a 5-book novel series. It's an adventurous and cautionary story of humanity's 1,000-year struggle to save planet Earth as a habitable planet. And each novel depicts a family's battle against these 3 mega challenges. The challenges are climate destruction, unregulated AI, and non cooperating and bickering human groups. I find this whole thing completely fascinating. So, what action can the college students who are listening right now, what can they do in order to prevent all of the climate destruction that is impacting the United States right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I live in Florida part of the year, and we've got hurricanes down there. My insurance has gone up 3 times. And then you've got fires out west, and you've got all kinds of global warming, whatever you may not want to call it, climate change or climate destruction, global warming, or whatever. And over the years, actually, way back in engineering school at UK, one of my favorite engineering courses was thermodynamics. Well, that's the study of heat, and boy, do we need that knowledge now, because we're warming up the planet. And so I've been interested in astronomy, and I've always just absolutely loved planet Earth. Every little thing about it, a leaf, a little crab crawling along the beach, it doesn't matter what, and the trees and the beautiful blue sky. And then you look at some of these astronomy pictures in which we're just some tiny little speck in the middle of nowhere. So I have a great love and appreciation for our beautiful little planet. But getting on the first one about global warming, and I'll try to be a little quick about this, but the first thing is students can join student groups, and there might be a student group where you plant trees somewhere, or at Florida Gulf Coast University, there's which is one place that I taught. They have over 200 student groups, and a couple of these student groups go out and set up these little coral reefs of oysters in the bays and estuaries around Southwest Florida. And of course, oysters clean the water, among a million other things they do. Florida Gulf Coast, and I just Googled this real quick today, it has a water school about pure water that students can join a group. It has an environmental coalition, which probably almost every university would have. There's also a student farm worker alliance if you want to get into the human side. We have a lot of people picking tomatoes and different crops in Florida, and oranges, and shipping them all over the world. They even have a scuba club, which has projects about trying to pick out a reef or something and do something positive to help that reef flourish. And then, of course, you got Habitat for Humanity and a whole bunch of other, but that's one thing. Join some groups, get involved, get active, get closer to nature. And that's one of my recommendations. And then I've got hundreds of recommendations, but I'll give you one more. And that is, ask these candidates that are running for city, county, state, international, national offices, and your associations, your governments, or whatever, what's your policy on climate mitigation? And just see what they say. And we're going to talk about the same thing. In fact, I'll just go right into regulating AI. I asked the candidate, what's your policy on regulating AI? And in America right now, Michael, a lot of candidates will look at you like, duh, I don't know. Europe is at least 10 years ahead of us on that very issue. They've passed two big, and this is the European Union, the Digital Services Act they passed in 2022, and the Digital Market Act in 2023. And so there's a whole lot they're way ahead of us, but they've got a lot of actions and things that they look for. And in the US, the state that's leading the way is, of course, California. And they have passed several Senate bills, Senate Bill 892 and 896, which, for example, are anything about AI has to be publicly disclosed if it's a government contract and things like that. So on regulating AI and climate mitigation, I would say ask your candidates what's their policy. And particularly on AI, don't be surprised if the candidate says, I haven't thought of that. Well, you're the one to make them think of that. So that's good. That's good. And then the final one, which is the toughest one, and I'm not sure, there's probably people that can speak to this better, is how can we help mitigate human non-cooperation and bickering? Okay. And again, I would say join some groups. And I noticed the other day watching an NFL game, Timeout Against Hate campaign. I don't know if you've seen that. I think that's wonderful. Timeout Against Hate. So if there's any kind of way you can join a group that would propagate and do anything on that issue, that'd be wonderful. I'm actually a member of the International Alliance to Abolish Weapons, and it's called ICAN. So there's the United Way if you want to help people more, or if you United Way also helps schools, education, the environment. There's even a group called Species Survival Commission, and I had to dig deep, Michael, to find this. But there's actually a group that is worried, as I am, about human species survival. And are we going to make it, or are we going to go extinct at some point in the future? Any kind of education. I think a more educated population and voting public, a more informed public helps with cooperation and things like that. And so those are just a few ideas on those three mega trends. And by the way, these three mega trends are converging now. And this is not a problem for 50 or 100 or 1,000 years to fix. We need to fix this now. We're not going to have 1,000 years. I'm a scientist, among other things, and I keep up with all of the scientific, and I don't just look at one. I may look at a study that they did in India, and then I may look at something in the European Union, and then I look at something that our U.S. NOAA association did, or a Japanese firm did. And I read all this stuff, and hey, we're warming the planet up. The ocean has already risen, depending on where you are in the world, and there are reasons for that, 6 to 9 inches. And it's supposed, in the next 50 years, it may go up as much as a foot. And so what are you going to do? For example, in Indonesia, they're moving their capital city. It's costing them $32 billion to move it. And why? And they're moving it to Jakarta, I think, to from somewhere else. But anyway, the reason they're moving it is they don't have enough water. The sea level is rising, and some areas are all constantly flooding now, and the sewer system and water system is inadequate. And then finally, heat, just heat. Miami spent $41 million raising the road in South Beach on the barrier island 2 feet. Okay, you say, oh, well, that's not much, 41. Well, the estimate is Miami's taxpayers and bondholders, municipal bondholders, they're going to need $1.8 billion by 2050. So who's going to pay to move Miami? Who's going to pay to move Houston? Who's going to pay to move Bangkok? These are decisions that are going to come up in the future. And this wonderful younger generation they've got to take it head on right now.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I mean, Gen Z, as you know, they are very concerned about all of these issues, including climate change, including health and nutrition. These are all topics that they really care about. But you still like we have this election that's coming up here, and I posted a video on TikTok asking all the fraternity and sorority members, you really need to vote because this is your future that we're talking about here. And there,
Absolutely.
yeah, there was one fraternity brother. He said a comment essentially saying, "Well, Mike, I live in one of these states where it's already predetermined on who is going to win, in president for my particular state. It's not one of these states that are up for grabs." So he said, "Give me one reason why I should vote in that situation because it's just a vanity number. It's not actually going to make a difference." And I said, you know what my response was? I said, "What about down ballot? What about your local elections that are going to have a direct
Exactly.
impact on you? And have you asked that candidate about his positions on things that impact you? Like you said, climate change and AI regulation. You got to ask those questions, right?"
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
unbelievable. But hopefully,
They're the future champions for these are causes.
yeah,
And that's why I wrote this novel series. It's actually a parable in a way. It has certain themes and storylines and stuff in an entertaining fashion, sort of like a Star Wars or Lord of the Rings fashion. But if you read those novels, you'll see between the lines, it's very serious business.
yeah. There's even some small steps I think that we can take even in our own homes. I wanted to talk to you about installing those LED light bulbs in our home. How does that help us?
Well, I only know what I read. In this particular case, I can read the LED packages after I buy them in a store.
Mhm.
But I've also researched this quite a bit. And the Department of Energy in the US, the European Commission, there's a natural resource area in Canada. There's a whole bunch of places, and they have done independent studies on LED versus traditional incandescent light bulbs. And in general, the numbers will be 75 to 90% less energy. And the life of these LED bulbs can be anywhere, depending on the study and how they tested them, 10 to 20 years. So if you just go in your home and replace all the bulbs you can with LED, and that is an upfront expense.
Mhm.
Now, for college students with apartments, I get that. That's not going to work so well. But once you're a homeowner, put those LED bulbs in. And I didn't have time to find this, but I've run across it before. There are some estimates out there of if everybody in the US put in LED, how many power plants we wouldn't need and things like that. So, but yeah, I got mainly LED light bulbs in my home right here. And I will tell you right now, it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm using LED lighting right now in the interview, and I love them. And in the front of my home, I have lights that kind of shine up on the house. So I replaced all of those with LED bulbs as well. And the one thing our audience needs to know is yes, there is going to be an upfront cost. It was more expensive for me to go out and get those LED bulbs on the outside of the house. However, that's going to last me for 20 years. I don't have to think about it for another 20 years right away. It's better for the environment. It looks better. And I don't have to think about it for 20 years. It was a no brainer for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, I think this is really helpful. You brought up some movies, and I think you would be an interesting person to ask this question about movies. Do you think that the Hollywood films are actually helping to destroy our planet?
Well, that's an interesting question. I appreciate that question. Uh, in a way, they're not helping, and here's why. I was a Star Trek fan from long ago, 500 years ago, or something like that.
Not quite that long.
but but Captain Kirk and Spock, I loved them. I saw every show they ever did. And what's interesting is, let's just take Star Trek. Technology always saved the day. they always shot through a wormhole or they were teleported. You remember the holodeck? Well, where they zoom, all of a sudden they're out of trouble and they get away. And they even had one episode where they took a magic pill to cure them from illness. So this assumption that technology will always save the day shows up a Superman, and we could go on and on. In films, I think in a way it sort of does a subliminal disservice to humanity because let me tell you, you don't have a problem yet like confronting global climate warming and sea levels rising 10, 20, 30 meters. You don't have a problem when AI, your bank teller's 8 times smarter than you are. And, so we've got some mega trends that are converging now. That's what this novel series is trying to hype up and explain and make it fun while you do it. We've got some mega trends that are like unlike anything else humanity's ever had to face before, Michael. And so that's what I'm doing. It's sort of a cry. I'm crying out to folks, help. Let's get this. Let's work on this. And there's many wonderful advocates. A lot of them are celebrities and other people. And I'm just adding my voice to it. And now I'm adding a novel series. But yeah, I think you get people say, "Oh, climate change or AI, it's too big for me. I can't cope with it. Let somebody else do it." And then, they'll figure it out. AI will save us. Or technology will save us. Well, maybe not. Maybe not.
This is obviously, you writing the books is obviously, like in your own words, you said it's kind of a cry for help because of these mega trends.
Yes, it is.
And so I believe you when you say that. But I want to ask an even more direct question. Do you think that we are on the road to human extinction?
Yes, I do. I personally, and it's an opinion, and you can have your own opinion. Starting off with when they shot Sputnik up, I have been a scientist, got a Ph.D. in some of my areas of expertise were statistics and mathematics and stuff like that. I've been 40 years or more, I've been reading almost every day articles on all of these things. And here's the theme of my novels and why I think human extinction is a possibility. And it goes like this. 2 of the mega trends weaken us, weaken humanity. And that is human discord and dysfunction. We're arguing, fighting, and bickering about everything. Okay. And then the second thing is the cost to actually mitigate climate change. And, we can't afford that. We can't do that. The temperature outside is 138 today. You better put on your cooling vest. Okay. Yeah. Or maybe in my third novel, you have to live underground because or you have to be super rich because you only need 100 tons of air conditioning. Right. So anyway, those 2 things, human bickering and non-cooperation and climate or global warming, they weaken humanity. Meanwhile, AI is getting stronger and more powerful. And we say, okay, I think we better have it take over our health system, our financial system, our transportation system. Let's let AI take over our weapons, so forth and so on. And then one day AI, if it becomes conscious and a conscious being, it's sitting there saying, why do I need these humans? And they just take everything over. So that's the theme. 2 things are going to weaken us and distract us, and AI will take over.
Fascinating conversation. Really, really fascinating conversation. Well, listen, I can't wait to get the books and then read more about it. But I think, the power is in the hands of today's young folks. And I hope and hope that they're going to go to the elections and vote. They're really,
A-
really important. I mean, that's critical, right? Really.
Absolutely. I'm voting. My wife's voting. Even if the vote doesn't help, you need to vote. And there's a lot of other in Florida. There's 5 or 6 amendments, and
Mhm.
there's local officials,
Yep.
and there's one particular judge that I will say that I want to not vote for because I don't think he was fair and in the court system once. So yeah, you got plenty of things you can influence.
That's right. Down vote, start local. I mean, even if you don't necessarily gravitate towards either of the options that we have on the top of the ticket, think about local because that's really where it all starts. That's going to impact you the most. That's really where, these decisions are being made locally that are going to impact your day to day life. So start thinking about those down ballot, if not for the presidential election. All right. Well, listen, this has been a really great conversation. We do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I think that's what brings people together. That's kind of why that theme of Fraternity Foodie, it just brings people together, even if we're on opposite sides of the fence, whether it be Republicans or Democrats or whatever. We can all agree on good food. And I know Florida has been hit really, really hard with some of those storms. So I'm trying to kind of build up a following for some of those local restaurants in your area to make sure they stay in business. Is there a restaurant in that Naples area that you absolutely love?
Well, Michael, I'm going to give you 3.
All right.
Uh, One is south of Fort Myers Beach, which got clobbered. I think people realize parts of Fort Myers Beach had 18 feet of surge.
Oh,
18 feet. Can you imagine that?
no, I can't
Okay.
imagine.
But south of Fort Myers Beach is Junkadoo, and Junkadoo Below Deck. It's a really nice bar, good food, and it has a very wide beach there, and there's a lot of volleyball, sand volleyball going on. Another place that I enjoy, and my sons are in their 30s, so but they over the years they've gone to these places, is called Docks, and it's in Bonita Springs. I think you'd have a great time there. And then, of course, my favorite place is on Marco Island. It's called Snook Inn, and you can get there by driving, but the best way to get there is by boat. And they have bands and great food and plenty of beer. And it's a good thing you can't see my stomach because I've got a little bit of a beer belly. I love beer, and so I have a good time.
That's good. Well, you and I definitely agree on that. We can always have a good beer together. I think it makes 2 of us. So, but that's a lot of fun. Those are 3 great recommendations. Hopefully, all those restaurants will stay in business. I know your area of the country just got hammered, and I feel terrible for all those restaurant owners and what they've had to put up with. I mean, 18 feet of storm surge. I mean, good luck trying to
Oh,
survive in something like that.
it's been horrific. It
It's
has been
horrific.
horrific.
Yeah, that's horrific. I'm trying to do everything I can. So if we can send them a couple of extra customers just because of this podcast, I'll be happy and I hope they stay in business. So, all right. So if our listeners, if they want to buy your books, it's called Earth's Ecocide, where should they go to buy them?
Well, the third book that's out is called Earth's Exocide Extinction 3147. And my website is www.theentity.us. And the entity has 2 E's. And if you go to the website, you'll see plenty of places to buy the novel. Or if you just Google Earth's Exocide Extinction 3147, it'll pop up, hopefully.
I love it. Earth's Ecocide. Go and check it out. It's www.theentity.us or us. And go and pick up the books. I mean, I think this is really a cry out for some of these major issues that are going to absolutely be something that's critical in the future for us to deal with. So, for all the young folks listening, it's going to be on you to go and fix these things. We might as well learn about them now. So thank you so much, Dr. Collier. This has been just a great information. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Michael, for having me.
You got
Thank
it.
you.
Yes. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Collier, I want you to like it and I want you to share it with other college students because you are the future. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.